stuff.
All right. Good afternoon out there. God bless out there in Radio Land. It's your boy, Pastor Rod Hickman. It's time for the Kingdom Perspective Live talk show. And today is going to be a great day. Today, we're going to have a wonderful show because we definitely have some titans here in the Tipton County area that have joined the show on today. And so, listen, tell a neighbor, tell a friend, like it and share it. I guarantee you, if you're out there and if you're in a place where you're like, man, I feel like I'm stalled, I'm in the new year, we're 16 days in, and I'm starting to see the same thing that I've seen beforehand. If that's you, then you definitely want to tune in. If you know somebody and that's their song, then you definitely want to make sure that you call them and tell them to tune in. So definitely glad to be here. Definitely excited about our guest on today. And without any further ado, because again, I just know it's going to be great. I don't want to spend a whole lot of time talking. I want to introduce to you one of the greatest lawyers this side of the Mississippi.
The greatest. Number one. I got the awards over here.
Muhammad Ali.
Okay, well, there we go, right there. What do I know? Well, man, Jerry, the kicking lawyer Mason. Hey, man, why don't you introduce yourself to the people, man?
Well, Pastor Rod, I appreciate you having me, man. I'm honored to be on my screen, I'm between two of the best looking guys. So I apologize to everybody watching if they got to look at me in the middle. But anyway, we'll have fun, and I think anybody that watches hopefully will get some benefit from it. I always get benefit from talking to both you gentlemen. I think you got great insight into things. But so I started as a karate instructor. That's where I started as in Covington, Tennessee. I went to school in Covington. I was born and raised in Covington. Loved Covington. And from martial arts, that led to getting into law enforcement as a deputy. 12 years. Fast forward, I ended up going to law school. And so now in the area, I'm the kicking lawyer at HMRS Attorneys, and I also have several small businesses that the Cellar that's opening this weekend is a restaurant, the newest endeavor. And we have several law firms, several other things I'm involved in. So anyway, just glad to be here with you guys.
All right. And then we also have the one and the only Dr. Jason Cannon, the one that is bringing fun and excitement back to chiropractic. Go ahead, Doc. Let's talk about it, man.
Hey, man. Jason Cannon here, man. Owner of Cannon Chiropractic, just like Jared, from Covington. Went to Covington Elementary, Covington High School, then University of Memphis, then chiropractic school, and got 3 locations right now. Working on the 4th, build out. The 4th location should hopefully be open in April, and just dabble in real estate and a few other ventures that we'll talk about. But man, just love doing what I do. I love giving back to the community, and I love chiropractic. So and educating people on chiropractic. So you got to keep pushing the envelope.
That's right. Well, listen, man, you're doing a wonderful job. Both of you all are doing a wonderful job. And as I started thinking about growth, I could think of no greater people than those of you that are here, and even Marcus Heaston. And he had something come up where he couldn't join us. But there are a lot of great things that are coming along in our area, in our community. And so that's what I want to talk about today. Again, as I said, we're here still in the beginning part of the new year. And I know, and well, let me talk about me a little bit. I'm Rod Hickman here, pastor of church here, Redeeming the Time Gospel Ministry, Church of God in Christ. I'm also the CEO and founder of Hickman Supply Chain Consulting, LLC. To date, my greatest consultation has been working with Medtronic as well as FedEx back in the pandemic to help them expedite the acute ventilators. So I went in and cleared up a lot of their supply chain woes. And if I'm honest, I'm really waiting on this administration to call me and say, hey, Rob, we need your help getting this stuff off these boards. And I'll go in and fix it just like that. Most recently, I just started Generational Wealth Builders, where we're doing financial services, where we're teaching people about money and how they can end poverty for their generation. Because I'm just a firm believer that when you begin to eradicate poverty, you'll begin to see a much better, a much stronger and well-defined community. You'll begin to see the people have hope and begin to look up. And it doesn't come by giving money away, but it comes by giving people the sense of I earned it. this is my legacy. This is what I've done. So that's me. And I guess I'll put my little 2 cents in there. But we want to talk about the aspect of growth on today. And as both of you all have multiple offices in the region, both of you all are very well sought after. You have national prominence. I wanted to talk to you about the aspect of growth. So what I'm going to do, the first thing I want to do is put a scripture out here that basically helps us understand where we're coming from. And it comes from 2 Peter chapter 3, verses 17 and 18. It says, ye therefore, beloved, seeing these things before, beware lest ye being led away with the error of the wicked, fall from your own steadfastness, right? That's key right there. It says, but grow in grace and in the knowledge of our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. To him be glory both now and forever. Amen. And where I want to set the tone is, and then we can go wherever we want to go from here, is that in the scriptures, the Bible let us know that we have to be steadfast. We have a goal. And as it relates to being a believer, our goal has to be to follow the Lord. It has to be to do those things to advance the kingdom. Now, listen, I'm not talking about building your church so you can say, I got the biggest church or nothing like that. But it's about advancing the kingdom by building people. And as you begin to build people, everything else will flow, right? So with that being said, we see this scripture that's letting us know that we have to grow. And I think in a lot of aspects, especially nowadays, we've lost the essence of what it means to grow. And I'll just throw the ball on the floor like that. Either one of you can take it.
Pastor, say that scripture again. I'm looking up on my phone so I can have it in front of me.
So it's 2 Peter chapter 3, 17 and 18. But yeah, so either one of you can take that.
Yeah, so I think I'm pulling it up too. I got my double monitors here so I can try to stay up.
You good.
Yeah.
Let's see. I think what you're inferring that kind of it means is you have to be consistent. You know, you have to be dedicated in whatever the goal is. And I think, and we hinted at it briefly, Pastor Rod, there before we went live, and we're waiting on Dr. Cannon here. I think a lot of people don't. I think they like the idea of growth or goals or success, but they don't. One, they may not understand the journey that's required to get there. And the frustrations that come across, you know, it kind of brings out laziness sometimes. You know, I just mentioned to you that I've done an article series this year for a lawyer magazine, National Lawyer Magazine, and it was on marketing specifically for lawyers. The last edition I just put out December, and I have my partner Dave Sowers review things for me. Anyway, he proofed it, and he was hesitant for me to submit the article because in that article, I actually give the process, I give the blueprints for the success that I've had in building this law firm. And his concern was, well, these other lawyers are going to see it. And then now they've got your plan. And I said, they're not going to do it. I said, they're not going to do what I do. So right. I think that's something that people have to understand is, you know, it's not a straight road to success. There are going to be failures. And even Dr. Cannon will probably, you know, everybody looks at him and just thinks he's this gorgeous success. I'm sure there's areas he's had struggles. But I think that's one first lesson is, you've got to be dedicated and consistent to traveling towards the goal that you have, regardless of the obstacles that you come across.
Dr. Cannon.
I agree with everything Jared just said. And I think continuing to grow, you know, I think you can get to a certain level and get complacent. You know, the enemy of great is good. And I think nowadays the bar is kind of low. So it doesn't take much to kind of step out and get in front of kind of like the baseline of whatever business or profession you're in. Because a lot of people are just doing nothing. They're just asleep at the wheel. So once you get to that next level, then it's like, okay, I've made it. And that's where you can really go backwards. It's two companies I always bring up in my staff meetings. And now I'm so old that the staff that I'm talking to don't get it. But one of them is Circuit City and the other one is Service Merchandise. Because those were two companies I spent a lot of money at when I was in high school and early years maybe of college. Particularly Circuit City, because I had bump in my car. and I would go
Yes.
and I spend money on amps and speakers and woofers and tweeters. And when I knew something was going bad with Circuit City, when Best Buy came along, I would go in there and looking at the lights in Best Buy were bright.
Mm-hmm.
They had happier, personnel. The TVs and stuff were set up, and you could just see everything in the colors. And then Circuit City had gotten kind of arrogant. They didn't have a lot of staff at one point. You'd be wandering around the store, and the store looks kind of dim and gloomy because they had the market. And then all of a sudden, boom, man, they were gone, and Best Buy took the market. And then the same thing with service merchandise. Just they didn't change with the times. And I mean, if you were close to my age, you bought something out of service merchandise, a little tennis bracelet for your first girlfriend or your mama or something.
Herringbone.
Herringbone, yeah.
Before I had chest hairs, because then they pull your chest hair. So
I used it as an example because they got to the front or proceed to be a leader at some point, and then they stopped growing or they stopped challenging themselves or listening to their customers. And I think that can easily happen in today's society, and particularly with social media. Social media make you think you just the man because you're getting likes or whatever, or you're in your own bubble, and that's not true.
That's right. And that's the thing. I think, based on what you're both saying is, I think what Jerry said, a lot of people aren't going to do it. And that's true. And that's what this scripture is giving explicit a warning about. It's saying, therefore, beloved, seeing that ye know these things before, beware lest you also being led away with the error of the wicked. Now, when we start looking at that, you talked about it, Dr. Canning, how sometimes with success, we can start getting lazy, right? When we get our first big sale or whatever, we get a few people calling our name, we feel like, I've arrived. But what I've come to understand is that when you get to the point where you feel like you've arrived, you become comfortable being a big fish in a little pond. And I know one thing that I do is I see myself, not wanting to be a big fish in a little pond, but I want to be a big fish in a big pond, right? And I'm not afraid to do what it takes. But again, growth, if I don't know if you guys agree with me on this, but growth scares a lot of people because, and I'm going to put this out there, and again, you guys go with it. Can you say that everybody that you started your journey with, whether it was high school, friends, things of that nature, have you lost some of them because you decided to grow and they decided to stay there?
I'll let you go first there on that one, Doc.
Definitely. and that's part of it. If you don't, I think you're gonna put a ceiling on your growth because everybody's not going up that ladder at the same pace, and it's not necessarily a negative thing at all. It's just different seasons in your life. But you got to be steadfast in where you're going, and then either they jump on board or they don't. But you stay locked and loaded on your goals and where you see yourself in the future. But it's depth and growth is scary because it's unknown. I think one of the biggest things with growth is we lose control. Like it's new. So me going from one clinic to 3, I didn't know that. I hadn't done that before. So it's like, okay, well, you just reproducing yourself, but it's different. I was in Mumford every day with the other docs and I could see everything. Now I'm not in there. That's a totally different feeling. Are they treating people right? Are things going? Are we getting paid?
Yeah. Well, I can tell you about Dr. Andrea, but we're talking about her later on.
Right. So I think the fear is a fear of losing control, and I think most human beings have a fear of not being in control, and that's part of growth.
I think also it's kind of like, and Pastor Rod, I think this is something you could probably end up speaking to. To me, it's kind of the difference between being rich and being wealthy. Right. I didn't know the difference in that until really the last few years, to be honest with you. It's not taught in schools. That's definitely right. What we're feeding our young nowadays via social media is not about being wealthy. It's about being rich. That's so the difference to me is an owner and a manager. It's the difference, right? So as a lawyer, if I'm in the practice, kind of like Jason, if he's in the practice every day and all he's doing is seeing his clients, or patients, I'm seeing my clients, I only have X amount of people that I can see. So the amount of people I can help and the amount of money I can make is going to be limited. It's going to be finite. Now, for some people, that's the dream. That's great. That's what they want to do. It's awesome. But what frustrates me about growth is you have a lot of people who they're doing that, but they don't understand that in order to go to the next level, you have to become an owner, which you have to work on wealth. Okay.
That's right.
So you have to build to do that. For me personally, on my growth journey as an attorney, I knew I needed other lawyers to do the work, and I needed systems in place to where I could still control the quality of the work we were doing.
That's
and
right.
then you have to understand new markets, and there are always challenges as you grow. You know, I'm sure Jason's experienced the same things I have. We opened our second office last year in Fayette County.
Mm-hmm.
I assumed a lot of things, and I made mistakes. And I'm the leader, I'm the managing partner, I'm the one driving the ship, right? So we go over there, and there was some things I learned. But instead of going, oh no, I need to retreat, I pivoted. I just took the information, monitored it, edited it, adjusted things, and then redirected the ship to try to be successful. And it's successful now. So that office is successful. Now we're going to work on our third one. And my goal is to get a fourth one before Jason. That's what I'm trying to do.
Listen, I'm coming in April, so you better come with it.
I'm coming. My point is, so some people are fine day to day going to work and working for the money, but I wanted my money to work for me.
That's right.
And to do that, I got to step out of that role of being the owner, and I've got to become, or being the manager, I've got to become the owner to go to the next level of growth. And that's scary for a lot of people because there's so many factors, involved in it. So many tripwires where you can fail.
That's right. Well, and I think to your point, what you're talking about, we use it as when we talk about the cash flow quadrant, right? I think Richard Kiyosaki, Rich Dad, Poor Dad was one that kind of most recently brought this forward, right? Like, where are you? Are you an employee? Are you self-employed? Are you a owner, or do you have a system? And I think when it comes to that, again, growth. Every one of us started out as employees, right? Every one of us started out saying, hey man, I'm clocking this money here. Well, I know I did. We started, making money somewhere else. And then, we transitioned to say, you know what, I want to own my success. And I know, Jerry, you became, when you started your martial arts studio, you became that. And so while you were building, and even you, Dr. Cannon, while you were building it, you were there. But then you got to the point where you realized, to your point, there's that system. But again, notice the levels of growth. And really what I want to pull from you all today is, how did you get to the point where you recognize that this isn't enough? One office is not enough. The martial arts studio is not enough. I feel like there's more to me. Dr. Cannon, from being, again, one of the most prominent chiropractors in this region to also dabbling in real estate. It would seem as if everything you're doing would consume all your time. And again, that's where I think growth has to take place, because when you stop, when you, again, I go back to the big fish, little pond syndrome. When you're in that little pond, when you're comfortable being in that little pond, you get complacent, and you don't realize that there's other people that are going to be big fish. They're going to grow to challenge you, but then they're going to end up leaving this pond, going to the big one, right? Do you know any companies that, and we talked about service merchandise, and I think Blockbuster is another one. That's a perfect example of how they thought they had cornered the market, but they never pivoted, right? And I think a lot of times we get in that place where, and I don't want to say we, but those who won't grow get into those places. So again, fellas, jump in.
I just don't want to jump on him. I'll tell you real quick. I have a sort of brief answer on that. I think you're kind of asking where we hit that we needed to do more than like one office, right? Because a lot of people's metric, we would have been successful maybe at one office. But the way I look at it, I know this, and I'm curious to see if Jason feels the same way I do. I'm just never content. Okay. Like, I am at the office right now, and I'm not here because we were doing this. I'm at the office all the time. And so people are like, again, that's why I know people will think, oh, well, I can, I'll model your whatever and succeed, but they don't understand the actual commitment that I have. But here's part of why, Pastor Rod. I'm a Christian.
Mm-hmm.
Jesus gave me this breath I'm breathing right now.
That's
Every
right.
second of life is precious. And I know I'm speaking to the choir with you on that right now. And so I feel like, why would I read a lot of Marcus Aurelius meditations is really good, right? Marcus Aurelius, the reason I enjoy it is you look back thousands of years, this guy was the emperor. I mean, he was like almost like a human god at the time, right? And it's him writing to himself about struggles we have.
Right.
He's literally writing about how he can't get out of bed. And so there's one of his meditations where he's like, am I meant to lay here in this comfort all day? Is that what I was meant to do? And I just don't feel that way. I really stress out if I'm not being efficient and achieving things, and it doesn't necessarily have to be even the business growth. Like our restaurant we're going to open, we had trouble finding bartenders, right? So instead of making excuses about it, I've been in bartending school the last 2 weeks. I've been going to bartending school at night to go bartend, Why can't I can do that. So it's just, I'm going to be efficient. I have a gift from God every day, the same gift everybody watching this has. To achieve their goals and become a better version of themselves, because why would I squander this gift I've been given? So anyway, I'm just real passionate about that. I can't stand being inefficient. I enjoy learning things, doing different things, being successful. So yeah, that's kind of what drives me is I may have 20 offices in, 5-10 years. I don't know, but I'm not going to be complacent with that because I still got breath.
Right. Right. So before we go, Dr. Cannon, so I hear you keep saying you're efficient. So for our viewers, talk about efficiency. What does efficiency mean to you, right? And how do you measure your efficiency? Because I know one of the things that I tell my clients is that what gets measured gets improved. If you can't measure what it is that you're doing, then you can't quantify to me whether you're doing good or whether you're doing bad, right? So talk to us a little bit about that.
Well, for me, it circles back to everything that the road that I start on any goal or anything I'm trying to accomplish is I set the goal and then I work backwards a blueprint to accomplish the goal. Mm-hmm. Like last year, I ran a marathon. Every year I set professional goals and personal goals, right? Mm-hmm. And I always try to challenge myself. I hate running. I'm not a runner. I'm a big old boy and it's not what I'm good at. And so I knew it was going to be difficult, but I knew that I had to stay the course of the program in order to accomplish that goal, right? So, I mean, I think that it's very important to me being efficient, to answer your question, is that each day, each week, each month, I'm stepping towards that goal. And if I see weekly or daily or monthly that I'm missing the goal, and there's metrics to measure that, whether it's revenues in business or if my run times are better, if it's a marathon, well, then I pivot. I don't stay the same and keep doing the same thing. The other thing is I try to surround myself with people that are smarter than I am. I message Jason a lot. I do probably more than other people, and I'll send him little quotes. He does me too. And part of the reason for that is he's very inspirational to me. I feel like I dog on him, but I feel like I'm here and he's above me, right? Mm-hmm. I've cultivated a relationship with John Morgan, with Morgan & Morgan. I reached out to him and he messaged me back because I have to have people that I can reach to and inspire me and make me better. I'm not going to stay here, like Covington. If you're hanging out on the streets with folks that are doing shady stuff, you're going to become part of that same thing. You got to get out of that, and there are people like you guys, people like me that are more than happy to help people and try to help you step to the next level. So, I mean, you got to have a plan. You got to measure the success towards that plan. And then I think it helps to have mentors that have either been there, done that, or that make you better. And if the people around you don't make you better, get rid of them.
That's right.
It's that simple.
That's right. Dr. Cannon.
Man, good stuff. Good stuff. For me, what made me kind of go from one clinic to want to do more is really never a final destination. It's just a journey, right? So once you hit a goal, then it's like, oh, okay, what's next? And some people are wired like that. Some people aren't. Like, hey, man, I'm good at this level. I want to relax. And I've just never been wired like that at all. And it's just like, how much potential can I have? Do I have? And like Jerry said, God put us here for a reason. And you have these talents, and we want to use them. You don't want to halfway use them. You want to use them. You want to go full force. And with me, also, it's always a purpose or a passion behind what I do. So chiropractic is just not like, hey man, I know I can make a good living at it. I really love teaching people about natural health care and chiropractic as opposed to opioid use. So when we got in Tiffany County and things were going well, the next step was, what about these people in these other counties? You know, and then I look at markets, you know, and I looked at one of the things is Starbucks. Starbucks can be 2 miles away and it's another Starbucks. And back in the day, it wasn't like that. You would drive, and now the demographics of people, they don't like to drive like that. So where we used to say have one office of people to drive in, no, you're getting that certain amount of people. We have people that drive a little bit, but for the most part, people don't want to drive far. So I need to be in multiple communities to, one thing, teach them about chiropractic. Another thing, it's a business model, right? So continue to go up that ladder. And one of the things Jared said is always have people in your circle that are pushing you. So that means you can't be the big man in your circle. You have to have some people that are above you that level you up, or you'll think you are the big fish in that in a little pond, and you think you're the big fish in the big pond, and you're really not. So I always, like I've talked on Jerry's show, I've talked on your show about having a consultant or a personal coach. I'm big on having a mentor, paying a mentor. You know, a mentor and coach is different. Mentor is a guy that you talk to and he helps you out. But you get you a personal coach, you're paying that person. When you're paying somebody, you're holding them accountable and they're holding you accountable. So I really like that. I've always had a coach since I've opened my practice. If my practice was doing $1 million, he was doing 1.5 or 2. You know, it was always, and when I caught him, they put me with another coach who was on the next level. So it's always somebody who's seen where you're trying to go to. And that was the big thing for me. And then now when it starts to work, it's like, well, why wouldn't you continue? And you're always having to tweak and pivot. Another one, like you said, is another thing I always say is inspect what you expect. And as you become more of an owner and not a manager or being in the office, that's some of those things that you usually have to have, because I expect it to be done this way. I got to inspect it. I got to make sure they're following those systems that I've cultivated. And that's a big thing. But just growing to that next level, like outside of chiropractic and doing the real estate, and we got a nail salon that's coming on board pretty soon in Memphis. That is just, you'll get to a point where Jared was talking about rich and wealthy. Wealthy people have multiple streams, you know, and the ideal is have multiple streams that's not requiring more and more of your daily time. Now it's not easy. Nothing's on autopilot. Never. Only thing, maybe a landlord is pretty autopilot for certain degrees. But other than that, you still have to be engaged with whatever business you're in to a degree, or it's going to go south, right? You just got to be locked and loaded and involved. But I started looking at other streams because of wealth. And it takes time to get wealth. And what happens if chiropractic goes, I don't know, if something happens and they just say you can't do it anymore? I never want to be something hit me and my lifestyle changes, or my son's lifestyle has to change. If an earthquake hits that building and I can't practice for a while, I don't want my life to change. So I have to think ahead of time because people are depending on me. And I looked at it like that, particularly when my son was born. All right, I don't ever want to be in a situation. I remember John Q, the Denzel Washington show. Yep. When his son was in the hospital or whatever, and he didn't have any insurance, didn't have any money. And I just remember looking at that movie and it just did something to me. And I just said, man, I never want to be in a situation where if my son needs something, I'm not no billionaire or nothing. So it still could be a situation where, but for the most part, if it's something I can do now that makes sure he's straight years from now, I want to do it. And it's my duty. I think wealth is your duty. And that can be controversial, but I think it's your duty to be successful and be wealthy, because God is giving you these opportunities, particularly in America. So all you got to do is find out how to do it and reach for that information. One thing I would want to say is, you don't have to be a boss or an owner. Like right now, Instagram has everybody thinking, man, if you work for somebody, you're just not doing it right. We got to have a team. Somebody has to be an employee, and you can get really wealthy as an employee and then start making, investments. But don't think from the jump, kids get out of high school and you got to open a business, because everybody's not built for it. It is not what it looks like. Jerry he's at the office right now on football Sunday. Yep. Right? Where a lot of people are like, hey man, I'm chilling today, playoffs going on. So a lot of things you don't see that we go through. It's times where everybody else is getting paid, and I look at the account and I was like, well, I'm glad for the real estate this week, because
I've been
The
there
Cannon
too.
Cairo is not paying me this week.
That's right.
But my staff is never missing a check, right? Because that's
That's right.
on me. So those things people don't realize. That's part of it.
Yeah, man, and that's phenomenal because, you know, I think, you know, to your point, social media allows people to feel successful even though they're not. I think one of the worst things that we've seen with social media is the like button, right? And by the number of likes, we tend to gauge our effectiveness, right? I remember there was a time where, and I know I'm one of the nicest guys on Facebook. I am. You don't have to tell me. I already know it. I'm not controversial at all. I'm just one of the nicest guys out there.
You're doing better. Now, I say a year ago, maybe 2 years ago, during the election.
Yeah. But my point being, what I've noticed is I can put something out there that is absolutely truth, that is vital. And I'm not even talking scripture. I'm talking about whatever. It could be about money, whatever. I could put something out there, may get 6, 7 likes. I can put something goofy out there and almost go viral. You get what I'm saying? And so it's like, for me, I think it's about the appetite and how you have to have that appetite for better, right? You have to have that appetite to grow. And I think, and kind of circling back to social media, I think social media has somewhat stifled our appetite for growth. It's kind of like the whole thing with fast food, right? Fast food will fill you up, but it's not filling, if that makes sense. How you can drink a cold Mountain Dew, but you'll still be thirsty because it really doesn't quench your thirst. Water, we know, will quench your thirst. And I think in a lot of ways, we see a lot of supplemental, or as you said earlier, Dr. Cannon, the lowering of the bar, where we feel like, yay, I've won. And to the point now, people feel like, well, if I've won, I get to now call the shots. Everybody say they're a boss, but to your point, I know I don't have to say this to either one of you all, but I know my wife sometimes have to come to this office and get me. I ain't lying. She have to come here and get me. Like literally, she'll come in and close the laptop, say time to come home, right? Because again, when you're building that foundation, when you're building, it's always so much that you just want to pour into it. But again, I think that's the growth, because I could be like, oh, well, I made $1,000, just in my part-time this week. That's more than I had beforehand. But when you're looking long-term, and when you're challenging yourself to set those goals, or when your mindset won't let you just be, how'd you say it earlier, Dr. Cannon? Good is the enemy to great. It's the mortal enemy to great. When you think that you're doing good, you'll find yourself just, making excuses. I heard something from Kobe Bryant, and again, talking about growth. Let me say this again, not being controversial, but just saying, LeBron will never be greater than Kobe Bryant. Okay, there I said it, and that, okay. But one of the things that I heard him say in this video, he talked about never negotiating with himself. He said, once I set that plan in motion, there are no negotiations. And he talked about how, he said, well, my knees started hurting, my back started hurting. He said he didn't negotiate with himself. Say, well, you practiced 2 times today, you can take a break. No, let me get out here and do it. You know what I mean? Let me get out here and get this 3rd or 4th workout in. And I think when it comes to growth, we have to realize that even when it's painful, you still have to grow. You still have to do the things that you know you need to do. Even when nobody pats you on the back for it, even when nobody says, man, I appreciate you. Even when you have people that may try to give you that negative press that can set you back some. You see what I'm saying? You still have to be focused on growing in grace. You still have to be focused on doing what you have to do. So wonderful, wonderful. We've had some phenomenal comments here. I want to circle back. My man, Pastor Torrent Miller, said something about growth. He said, I won't get any taller, but I'm going to keep growing. That's powerful. What do you guys think about that? I just thought that was too powerful.
Yeah, Jason said something a minute ago about how not everybody has to be an owner. And I agree with that. You can't instantly come out and know and have the experiences and mistakes that all of us have probably made at various times to get where we are. There's no way to get experience without time. You just can't eliminate the time equation, time component, right? However, John Morgan, he has a thing he calls paper boys. And he says that people like us are paper boys. And he says most people that you talk to that have achieved, what people look up to, you kind of look at as successful people, when they were younger, probably had a paper route or something similar to it, or were hustling somehow, right? Right. And that hustler mentality, I mean, you can't really teach it. It's like a character trait that has to be there. So if you don't have that, or if your perspective of success is different, that's fine, but it still doesn't mean that you're not going to grow. There's some people that are fine with working a 9-to-5 job, and they go home and they have family, and they still can grow in other ways. Maybe it's more knowledge. Maybe it's being a better parent. Maybe it's helping other people grow. There's ways that they can improve and still be successful, because success is relative. It's like I said, my goal this year, I want to buy a Lamborghini. That's why I got it right there. That's what I'm going to do, right? Last year I had bought my first Rolex, and I got 4 or 5 of those. So, and the reason is, even though those are materialistic, it motivates me. So I'm going to help so many more people and reach so much more success because of the pursuit of this material thing for myself. However, there are people that aren't like that. And that's cool, man. If your goal is to go hug a bunch of trees, awesome. You can hug way more trees if you make more money, though, So just my point was, success is relative. I get that. And it's fine if your goal is to do the 9-to-5 thing, as long as I agree, you don't need to be stagnant. I always say this to people. I say this to people that hesitate to go train in martial arts, right? So I trained today. That's what I trained, came up here and work. And I'm going to go do weights tonight because I'm trying to catch up with Jason over there. But anyway, I tell them this. I say, look, when you're 90, when you're 80, 90, whatever, if you're blessed enough to live this full life and you're laying there on your deathbed, what are you going to regret? Are you going to be like, man, what if I had taken that taekwondo class? What if I had opened that book? What if I had tried that restaurant? Or what if I had tried to do this? You don't want to have what ifs. So in life, when people come to me and it's something that in my head I hesitate or I'm scared of, that means I should do it. That's an opportunity for growth, right? So even if it's not in business, but in life, people can still grow and achieve a success. It just may be relative to them.
That's right. I think, and you bring up a very valid point. And Dr. Cannon said the same thing. There's a thing called a intrapreneur as well as an entrepreneur, right? Your entrepreneurs are your people who will be your lifelong expert. They don't want the responsibility of owning the business, right? But they'll hold down the system. They'll manage your system. And I think that, that's a step up from an employee. But again, it starts with mindset. You have to understand the difference, right? And as you said earlier, Dr. Cannon, especially right now in today's society, people think, oh, I ain't got to work for nobody. I ain't nobody's slave or nothing like this. Well, it's not about that. Ultimately, what it's about is, what are your goals? And I'm finding out in the financial industry that a lot of people don't have goals. I'm telling you, when people don't have budgets, but yet and still they wonder why they're still poor, right? Where we're trying to get people to understand that a budget gives you a roadmap to generational wealth, right? You won't get there because again, it's that undisciplined spending. It's it's the not knowing. It's just kind of the winging it. But what I've heard both of you say today is that you have a goal. Now, again, I'm not a Lamborghini guy, especially because of these potholes in Memphis. You know what I'm saying? You hit one on South Memphis and end up on Germantown. But again, the fact of the matter is, and I can remember, man, being one of those guys that's like, why in the world would you buy a Rolex? But then I had to change my way of thinking. You know what my thinking is now? Now, if I buy a Rolex, that is going to represent 1% of my overall net worth. You see what I'm saying? So it's not so much that I don't like it. I think it's a wonderful timepiece. But my goal is I want that to be 1% of my net worth. By the time I buy a Ferrari, because I'm just that kind of guy, I think I'm too tall for them. But again, I still want one. I'm a Bentley guy as well. but I just don't like the gas mileage, and I can't kind of shake that. But again, by the time I buy one of those, that will equate 1% of my overall net worth. Again, so when we're talking about growth, your growth doesn't have to be my growth, which won't be Dr. Cannon's growth. But again, we can all encourage one another, which I think we do, to be great, to grow. Like I heard you saying, oh, you ain't gonna open your Ford before I. Well, again, that's the type of competition that we need in order to grow and continue to grow. Again, I don't mind being last, as long as I'm running with you guys. You get what I'm saying? Hey man, like and again, the thing is, I ain't gonna say nothing. I'm just gonna run my race. You know what I'm saying? But I know that if I need either one of you, say, hey bro, I'm thinking about this, I'm thinking about that, man. Just give it to me, shoot me straight. I know that I can get that mentoring, I can get that coaching from you guys, and I think. And Apostle Bryant hit it dead on the head. Iron sharpens iron. And I promise you, it's a lot of ceramic that's out there that's trying to be iron, and it's just not going to work. You guys go ahead, man.
That's right. So one thing you kind of hit on is one of my favorite verses. It's a rap verse. It's Beanie Siegel.
Go ahead, man.
He says, I'm not the captain, but I'm on the boat. And that's a mindset. You know what I'm saying? He's not Jay-Z. But he was on Rockefeller rolling with them guys, man, and it rubs off on him. That's so right. Sometimes you got to have that. You got to hit your wagon to somebody's, you know what I'm saying, and roll with it. And then I think sometimes when we talk about money or wealth, it can get a negative tone to it, or we can put it in the negative, like particular society. Wealth is bad, or rich is bad, or anything like that. And that's just not the case, because you got to realize. Anything really requires money. One of my preachers would always say, listen, if the guy say he hungry and you say, well, I'm going to pray for you, that didn't help him at all right then. Like he wants some food or he needs some shelter. You need to be, let me get you a room where you come stay with me. But you just saying, I'm going to pray for you. I never subscribe to just that. I definitely want to pray for you. But to make some change, a lot of times it has to be some finances behind it. Absolutely. If that kid wants to go to college, I remember I went to Prince's house up in Minnesota, and his head of security is actually a guy from Memphis. So I had a Memphis shirt on. We hit it off. We started talking, and he told me how many people Prince put through college without him knowing. He just get in contact with them, have his people pay for it, and things of that nature.
That's right.
Those are really meaningful things, but he couldn't do that if he didn't put the work in and have that plan to become wealthy. So my first Rolex I got. And the reason, and I tell you, I think I told Jared is, I don't get stuff just because I can afford it. I'm a set of goals. So at the time, I said, I got to see X amount of patients for 9 months straight. And it was before I had an associate. It was just me. If I do that for 9 months straight, then I felt I've hit a goal and I'll buy that Rolex. I could have bought it years before.
Yeah, that's right.
But I always want something like that carried out there. Then I feel I deserve it, right? Not just because. And so putting those type of goals in front of things. But my idea when I look at wealth, I want nice stuff. I want to be able to take my son and do different things. But also I want to be able to help organizations and people in need at that time. And if we didn't have wealthy people, one of my patients, I always tell stories my patients tell me. He said, Doc, I've never had a poor boss. And he was like, so if we hate the wealthy, who people gonna work for? He said, every guy that I work for has been rich or wealthy. And this guy was an engineer, went to school to be an engineer, worked at World Color Press at the time, but he didn't like being an engineer. So he worked at World Color Press. He said, man, I didn't like the stress of it. It was a high-paying job. He said, I love working at World Color Press. I can just go in, do my stuff, and go home. So everybody's different on what is their ideal of success or stress or not stress. I thrive on some stressful situations because I just kind of like that. But that's just one point I wanted to make, that when it comes to wealth, it's not a bad thing. It's just not.
That's right. Well, let me jump in here because Jerry and I were talking about this beforehand, right? Right before you got on in the background there, and I'm trying to be nice because I'm the nicest guy on Facebook. But I get aggravated when I hear preachers that are propagating this poor man's gospel. But then I also get aggravated when they try to propagate this money coming gospel. You get what I'm saying? Again, because we're taking it out of context. The Bible tells us to grow in grace and in the knowledge of our Lord and Savior. And when we look at the rich young ruler, and as I told Jerry earlier, a lot of preachers use that as a basis to say, see, he don't want us to have no money. He told the disciples, don't take nothing with you because somebody going to give you what you need. They try to use that as the basis to be poor. But if that's the case, why did he have Solomon be one of the richest men that ever lived? Does the Bible now contradict itself? Absolutely not. But again, the reason why he told the rich young ruler what he told him was because he made that his God. See, he didn't mind doing, the stuff, going to check on the folk at the nursing home. He didn't mind doing checking on giving the widows and the orphan. But what the Lord was saying, I need more from you. He said, so if you want to be perfect, this was the challenge now. If you want to grow, what you're going to have to do is go sell everything that you have, give it to the poor, then take up your cross and follow me. Now, with that particular challenge that he gave him, the Bible says he walked away. Why? Because he was a big fish in a little pond. He couldn't accept the challenge that the master gave him by saying, okay, what can you do without your money? But back to that point, a lot of people have adopted that mentality that, oh, I'm all right. I got what I need. I ain't got to have that. How can you spend that kind of money on this, that, and let me be honest with you. I remember there were times before I had my paradigm shift, before I really just started focusing on building generational wealth, where I was happy just to be able to take my wife to Applebee's. I ain't lying, I don't mind, because I'm like, I ain't finna go to no Houston's and pay that kind of money, no Owen and Brennan and pay that kind of money. But guess what? After I had my paradigm shift, after I got into business for myself, and to your point, I start setting some goals. And when I start achieving those goals, it's time to celebrate. So now I love being able to take my wife wherever she wants to go. I can tell you now, just in case you guys ever want to get me any gift cards, anything like that, I love going to the flight. I love the flight. We went to Porch and Parlor. Didn't really like that. And again, I'm just calling out names of businesses and stuff like that, because those are places where you can't go in there. They don't have no 2 for $20 menu on there. And so again, with that paradigm shift, with that growth, we can't expect to still be in the same place, doing the same things when you're growing. What you got to say, Jerry? And let me say this. I plan on coming to the cellar too, and I ain't gonna be looking for no 2
yeah, I almost threw it in there, but no. I agree with all that. And I guess to circle back, because see, I've been broke.
Yeah.
Like, it's no secret. I've talked on my podcast how one of my cars, this is when was I in law school? I think I was in law school, was repoed 3 times.
Wow.
All right, 3 times in the same year. I've been broke. I've been where I was driving to school and I didn't have gas money to get back from school, going to law school. So, I mean, like, I've been broke. And so now to be to the point where I set a goal for a Rolex or a watch or whatever, it's not to brag or boast to anybody. It drives me forward.
That's right.
And it's kind of like Dr. Cannon was saying, actually, he kind of gave me the idea on some of it, is that it's a goal that I work towards, and I can be so much more successful in other things that I work towards that goal. But what I was going to say about all that is I think I wish we could see a paradigm shift in society. Instead of, like I joke with Jason and stuff, even online sometimes. And of course, at the cellar, you can come have a Doc Cannon drink. We have a cocktail named after the boss, Doc Cannon, over there, right? Because I look up to him. Like I
heard it is a great drink.
He said it was good, didn't he? He was underwhelming.
I can't have a virgin Pastor Rod drink.
We can work it up.
Okay.
My point was, if Jason goes and opens 20, 30 chiropractic clinics next year, and he's driving all the Ferraris in the world, man, I am so glad for him.
That's right.
It's a blessing for me to see that. And a lot of people see people succeed and they just try to pull them back down. And part of it is jealousy and ignorance. And then they're all, why does he do that? You got to shift it. A lot of times, that was the other point I was going to say at the very beginning. I think one of the keys to growth and success is that you have to take ownership in your growth and success. You can't point fingers and blame other people that it's their fault. Okay.
Right.
Now, is there sometimes people trying to hold you back? Yeah. But we live in a country where you can unshackle that. You know, you can get free of them. So, you know, you just got to take ownership of that and pivot your view. And instead of being upset or jealous or worried over what other people are doing, you know, like y'all don't know this, but I actually rarely get on social media. I have Josh as a marketing director. He has all my stuff and posts all the stuff. And I try to never get on there and just scroll. So I've had people go, I tagged you in this or I posted this, and I didn't look at it because it's a waste of my time, to be honest with you. You know, I use it for marketing, but I'm going to focus on me. I'm going to focus on what I'm going to do and where I'm going. And I think that's an important point of success is it's nobody's fault if you don't succeed. You know, that's a victim mentality. Woo. And victims are usually not successful.
Woo. And so ultimately what I heard from that, it goes back to you. If you grow, it goes back to you. If you don't grow, it goes back to you. And you know, I make no that's just from, you know, the victim mentality. I could go into that. I really oh Lord, I can't think of his name. I can't think of the name of the author, but either way, I'll come back to it. Thomas Sowell. He wrote an amazing book that was called Black Rednecks, White Liberal. And if you read that book and you can come out of that and keep a victim mentality, then it's on you. It was one of the greatest books that I ever read because what it did, it took away the excuses. It took away the excuses of this and that, or I feel like blase. And what I'm finding myself doing is reading books that are challenging me. You know, because I've heard this phrase, leaders are readers. I agree with that because again, when you get the biggest enemy that you have is right inside of here. And, you know, like you said, you don't do your own social media. Everybody ain't able. I ain't there yet. I aspire to be there, but but again, that's phenomenal because again, what you're doing is you're protecting what's in here. You get what I'm saying? And whether it's a win or whether it's a lose, again, you're protecting what's in there. Because again, let's just be honest. And this is one thing I come to understand from the scriptures. The Bible says that the poor you'll have with you always. However, it never said that you had to be one of the ones that are poor. And I think when we start breaking that mindset and realizing that I'm responsible for what I do, and that's where it goes all the way back to the scriptures. Notice what it started out saying. It said, you can't, listen, don't allow your steadfastness to be broken, right? Don't allow your steadfastness to be broken, right? There are going to be things that happen, right? Life is going to happen. But you cannot stop your steadfastness. And when you have goals, when you have inspiration, when you know what you want out of life, you've got to keep going after it. And if you allow something to rob you from it, who can you blame? Right? Who can you blame?
Is it? Another one, hey, Pastor Rod.
Yeah, man.
You know, I'm always with the verses, man. I'm always with Jay-Z says, I can't help the poor from one of them. Let me get rich and give back. That's a win-win. That's one of my favorites. And that just rings true, man. It just does.
That's right.
And that abundant mentality. One thing, I used to work at the Country Club of Memphis. And this was, I can go way deep on that. It was no black members, no Jewish members at the time. It was a whole big deal. Mm-hmm. But I worked in the locker room and shine shoes there. Met a bunch of people. I mean, rich. Yes, wealthy and rich. And I would say what I saw, not across the board, but for most part, the real wealthy people were very, very nice.
That's right.
Hey, you going to Dallas to Cairo school? I got businesses down there. Jason, here, call this number. You got a job when you get to Dallas. The upper middle class, doctors, lawyers who was making a little bit,
yep,
they were the buttholes. They really were. That's right. I'm like, I'm sitting there with like the CEO of AutoZone is making like $9 million a year, and he like cool as all get out. And then like the surgeon walk in or the attorney walk in, and it's just like, dude, calm down. Yeah. So I think that's a misconception too. That these super wealthy people, they all of them got there by cheating or somebody or their parents gave it to them. And when you were me working there, totally changed my perspective because people would say, okay, your dad was adopted, but that money ain't that's not that wealthy money. That's just
right.
he first generation out the cotton field, so that's adopted money out of the cotton field.
That's right.
Yes, I didn't hope for nothing. I love that I was blessed to have those parents that I had. But that was different than these guys that right. was, worth millions of dollars. And they were just, and they worked. I mean, it wasn't like physical work like they at FedEx, but I would be at that country club 8, 9 p.m. at night. They making deals. They That's working right. the whole time. Where everybody else got off at 6 and they at home watching the game, kicking back with a beer, talking about the real wealthy people. Oh, they just lazy. And I'm like, no.
That's right.
They working on a whole nother level. Right. It's from sun up to sundown, and you don't even see it.
That's right.
And that really changed my mindset on how the wealthy move. That's right. It was a real good job to be out there at that country club. I mean, I would give you, for instance, they would spend $30,000 on meals a month, like easily. Like, and they would put, if you didn't pay your bill, I had to put it up on this little board, and I put up, hey, so didn't pay the bill. Wealthy folks do not want to look like they don't have money. They come up there and pay that bill so quick. And I'm thinking, how did you spend $30,000 on food this month? And they sign for everything. Give me that cognac, give me that cigar, give me that filet mignon. And they kids sign for everything when they come out there and eat. They just sign it. And at the end of the month, it is what it is. So the other side, but those guys and some of the ladies, most of the guys, they were working their tail off.
That's right. That's right. Well, but I think you said it right, and I think this goes back to branding, right? And when you put yourself in position to do that, you can enjoy that. One of y'all said earlier, I never worked for a broke boss. And I think, and again, not to get political, so it's taking everything in me not to say this, because I'm not a political guy, as you all know. But I think one of the biggest misconceptions out there now is that somebody else is going to take care of me. And for me, the problem with that mindset is that while there may be someone that may take care of me, they're not going to take care of me the way I want to be taken care of, right? And if I allow that person to take care of me that way, then I can't complain. A lot of people don't know this about me, but for pastoring, I don't take a salary. I don't have any love days or anything else like that. I've had people tell me you're crazy. I'm not, because I don't want the church to ever be in the position where it's taking care of me. Now, I'm like Paul, and I take this scripture. I'm a tent maker. So what I do, the skills that the Lord has blessed me with have allowed me to be able to do that. Because the one thing about me is I never want to feel constrained, like, well, the church couldn't pay me X, Y, Z. So I start looking at the church as if, in some offshoot way. But with that being said, as I grow, the church will grow. You see what I'm saying? See, we don't do a lot of advertising about the church and about what we're doing and things of that nature, but the Lord has blessed our ministry. We take up one offering a week. And again, I'm just talking about, because we're talking about system. We take up one offering a week. We've been in that building now almost 9 years, and this year is going to be paid off. You see what I'm saying? And so now we'll be able to take that money and repurpose it to do other things, to start working on some things that are going to help us have a much larger footprint in the community. And again, not just talking about these are the services that we have, but really being more grassroots right there in that community, saying, what can we do? Okay, what kind of after school program can we host? Right. And again, if we're not now paying a mortgage, guess what? We now may be able to hire some people part-time to be able to put them to work there. So now we're employing the community. And this going to your point, Dr. Cannon, again, it's a win-win. But the thing is, if I'm so focused on trying to get rich versus being wealthy, then now I'm looking like, well, I'm taking where I shouldn't be taken. And then now the church cannot do ministry. And so I think, and this is kind of a point where when it looks to understanding the difference between being rich and being wealthy, I'm finding out that in my pursuit of wealth, I have great peace with where I am. Not contentment, but I'm peaceful. So I don't feel like I'm a failure because I don't have what the next man has. You get what I'm saying? I don't feel like a failure because I don't have 4 offices and I had it on my vision board that by this time I'll have 2 offices. I don't feel like a failure when I don't get the amount of business that I want to have, right? It's like there's no pressure for me to succeed and do things that will cause me to start having a negative impact in the community. Does that make a little bit of sense?
You're running your own race, and you have your goals and your path. When you don't have that, then that's when you start looking at other people, and then you get envious, or you wonder why not me, why him. But if you're focused on your own and you know your path, and you may not be hitting it as fast as you like, we all up and down at times. But that keeps that focus on you, and that's the whole thing. You know that picture of Usain Bolt, and he's running, and other guys looking over, and Usain is just it's Absolutely. Like, don't look at everybody else.
Absolutely.
You know?
Yeah, and look, I'm gonna show Dr. Cannon this and everybody else too, because I have this in my office, so you can see that's my conquest map there. Right? So I just want Dr. Cannon
Look,
to
how many locations is there, man?
I'm coming for him. I got 3 coming here in February, but I'm coming. I'm just want you to know. But what everybody needs to realize is, obviously, that's billboards and offices and everything on that.
Look, because you can't even go to Jackson, Tennessee without seeing the Kicking and Lawyer billboard, man.
I'm coming 6 or 7 times, bro. 6 or 7 times.
They don't understand, brother. I'm coming. But my point is, for everybody that's watching, you got to have 1 pin before you can get 35.
That's
you know
right.
what I mean? So you got to take that first step. So whatever you got to do that, I hope and pray. That's my hope for everybody in 2022 is they take that first step. And if you've taken 50 steps, I hope you take the next 100. You know, I want everybody to succeed. There's plenty for everybody.
That's
Jason
right.
and I have talked about this, we're in markets that have a lot of competition. I don't care what the rest of them do because I'm doing me. I'm running my race. You know, so focus on yourself and take that step.
That's right.
And no, it's not overnight. You know, if you remember, I'm in practice 19 years now. A lot of people look at it like, oh, like, dude, it's 19 years.
That's right.
I've been at it, man. It's not like last year I started.
That's right. That's right. And that's phenomenal, right? Because I think that goes back to social media, how people feel like, you know, I can do it. It don't take all that. Right. You know, and that's what just irritates me about social media, because it gives that false perception of, oh, it's not that hard, or what they're doing is not that great. But you don't know the sacrifices. You don't know the sacrifices of what it means to be in business. And again, you know, like you said earlier, Dr. Cannon, your people are gonna, you know, they're gonna get a check regardless. Right. But a lot of people don't realize that. You know why? Because they don't understand how money works. And so I found that, and here we go again. We're around tax time, and while I believe that tax time this year ain't gonna be like it's been the other years, I'm just saying I don't think it is, because whatever, I could be wrong, but I don't think them tax returns, I don't think we're gonna be seeing them cards from It's All Good, you know, where I don't care about your credit, I care about you. I don't think we're gonna be seeing those this year. But either way, where I'm going with that is when you start talking about the upper middle class and how their attitude towards people. We see that every tax time, right? People get a little money because they're not used to it, and they feel like they have to act a certain way, right? They feel like they can talk to the waitress any old kind of way. They feel like they can talk to you any kind of way because I'm spending my money here. Well, you know what? That little car you riding around in now, when you asking me 3 months from now to park it in my backyard, remember that, keep that same energy, right? But this is where we've got to grow in our mental. And I hope that we're getting that. So I have posted right now, Bobby Cleary, and God bless you, man, you and Tiffany out there. They're getting ready to do some great things as well. But notice what he's asking. The question he's saying, is my success and growth based on, am I a better and stronger today than I was yesterday? What do you guys think about that?
That's it.
I think that's great. Everybody's got their own metrics. I'm sorry, Jason. I mean,
go ahead.
everybody's got their own metrics. And as soon as I said that, I was going to say something on something else. Oh, one thing before I forget, we were talking about the victim mentality. A good book on that, if you hadn't read it, is You Can't Hurt Me by David Goggins. He was I think the sixth African American Navy SEAL in history. Phenomenal. You read that, you can't make no excuses, man. That's a bad dude right there.
Dude is bad.
Yeah, but yeah, it's kind of like success is relative, and as long as you're in your metric better the next day, yeah, Bobby's right.
Absolutely. What do you think, Dr. Cannon?
I agree. I mean, and it's keep it simple. You know, you don't have to have all this fancy stuff. Like, man, did I do better today than I did yesterday? And at the end of the year, you're gonna be ahead. So just kind of keep it simple like that.
Absolutely. Well, listen, fellas, I think this has been phenomenal. I think we've had a lot of good people that have been on here. I want to give a shout out to Trav Price. I see he's out there. I know he's doing his thing in the as an electrician, and he and I have been talking and chatting. And I'm a little mad at him because he went to the gun range and didn't tell me. But I ain't gonna throw no rocks at him. I ain't gonna throw no rocks at him anymore. But he's doing his thing, and he and I were talking because a lot of us have degrees. Both of you all have doctorates. I have my master's. But you don't need to have a degree in order to be successful. And what he's doing, as far as in the electrician industry, he's changing the game, right? And I love seeing him out there on his jobs. He's out there on his job, and he's like, boom, I'm out here. Boom, I'm out here. And when you have that pride in what it is that you're doing, again, that's how you run your own race, to Brandon's point. When you run your own race based on the fact of this is what I'm doing, and I have joy in what it is that I'm doing. And he has some great things coming on that he shared with me. And again, like I say, I'm elated to see entrepreneurs coming up and doing their thing. So as we get ready to get out of here, I want to give you both the last opportunity to say something. But let me say this. Listen, folks out there, if you say, you know what, I want to take the first step. I want to do something, but I don't know what it is. Listen, reach out to me. I'm quite sure you can reach out to Dr. Cannon or the Kicking Lawyer, and I'm quite sure they'll be able to give you something that will be able to help you realize, hey, what is it that I want to do? But let me help you. Don't waste our time, right? If you're just calling us just to get just to say, hey man, I want to know, I want to go in business, then don't do it, right? Because again, at the end of the day, we're out here making moves, right? And again, when we're not on social media, it's because we're trying to grow our craft. But I'm quite sure either one of them will be willing to help you and steer you in the right way, as long as you come with something. And I say this quite often, you've got to be willing to pull the wagon, right? I'll help push a little bit, but you've got to pull the wagon. If you're not pulling the wagon, I promise you ain't even got to worry about me. You know what I'm saying? So again, all of you that are out there that are willing, we got Corey Lemons on out there doing great things in the HVAC. I just seen him with the new, come on, man. Again, entrepreneurs that are out there doing their thing, right? And that's what we've got to do. But again, if you want to jump out there, or if you say, hey man, what are some resources that I can use to find out whether I'm an entrepreneur or entrepreneur? Inbox me. I promise you, I'll show you. I won't charge you for anything, right? That's the whole thing about it. Free game will put you on place. Like you were talking about earlier, my man with Benny Siegel with Rockaware, he was just riding along, right? And as he's riding along, look how he came up. And again, a lot of time, as long as you're willing to put in the work, as long as you're willing to do your thing, you can get in and you can go to great heights. So again, that's it. What you got to say? Closing remarks, Dr. Cannon, and then Jerry, you can close us out, man.
All right, man. I would say I've been seeing a lot of the posts, keep it positive. That's a key thing for me. A lot of times they ask, Doc, are you always happy? I'm like, man, I had some bad moments, but never a bad day. And that's just how I go into it. We blessed, particularly in America. So there's no reason for you to have a bad day. A bad moment, get yourself together and keep pushing. I would say treat people right, have integrity. When it comes to business, have integrity. I mean, you're going to get everything perfect, or everybody's going to always like you. You may have a disgruntled customer or a patient or something, but try to do the right thing. That's the one thing my dad stood firm on. He was like, do the right thing, even if it puts you in a bad situation, money-wise. Do what's right. If you got to take care of something, you take care of it, but do what's right. And don't think that you only get one shot at this thing. You know, a lot of times people like they got one shot, and if it go bad, then the world is over. No, y'all, if it don't work out, you regroup, you come back at it. I mean, how many Trump filed bankruptcy 4, 5, 6 times, and then he became president. I just think people put too much pressure on certain situations. It's just like, man, make a move. You're gonna be all right. You ain't gonna die.
That's right. That's right. That's right. Wonderful. Jerry?
The biggest thing I think is everybody needs to understand failure is a step towards success. All right. Failure is a necessity. And so a lot of people will take a step and then trip and fall, hit their head, and they're like, that's it. It's not meant for me. No, you got to get up. You know, I always talk about Colonel Sanders. You know, Colonel Sanders was like in his 70s and was trying to sell his chicken recipe, kept going around. And I think it's like 1,100 times he got turned down. And then that 1,101st time, somebody said yes, and he became a multimillionaire in his late years. So, I mean, you can do it, but you got to realize that failure happens, but you got to take the step. Don't be that 90-year-old laying on their deathbed and you had this idea, or you were going to try this, or you wanted to run a marathon, or whatever it was you wanted to do. And then you're like, man, I wish I had. Don't let life pass you by. I don't plan on retiring, but I'm living right now. I don't need to retire to live. You know what I mean? So I just hope everybody, I'm passionate about everybody. I know Jason will agree. We would help anybody. You can shoot me an email, shoot any of us. I know Rod too. I know you guys, and man, literally I feel like a brotherhood with you, because I know it's kindred spirits, and I know you really just want the community and everybody to do better. So I hope everybody has a blessed 2022. And if I can be of any assistance to any of them, but like you said, don't be afraid. If you ask, be ready, because if you say you want to go do this, well, I might make you do some stuff you didn't think you was ready to do. You know, people want to come be a black belt and they get punched in the face. All of a sudden they're upset. Well, that's part of it, you know. So be ready for the hard work.
That's right. And again, that's phenomenal. You know, the thing is, just be ready. And I think what I would say is, you to thine own self be true. Everybody wants to be a millionaire, but not everybody has millionaire work ethic. And so with that being said, you know yourself and be honest with yourself. It's okay. It's okay to aspire to be there, but let's come up with a plan on how you can get there. But thinking that, you know, you're working, you're giving 60% now. If you think that's going to get you to millionaire status, then you're sadly mistaken. I think in the rap industry, I think that's probably one of the greatest examples of people who don't define their craft. You know, I think about LL Cool J, because he was the one, you know, I remember when he came out, you know, with the Kango and the Dookie rope, you know what I'm saying? Now, I never had his muscles, but you know what I'm saying? It was all right, because all of us was out there like that. But I look at him, how he transitioned down through the years. And I don't know if he's rapping anymore or anything like that. But again, just to see him still have presence and relevance, you know, is something, is because he continues to challenge himself. And so that's what I would do. I would challenge you to listen to this broadcast. And remember, you know, while we're talking about it from a kingdom aspect, that we have to grow, we have to continue to seek after the Lord. Even in the secular world, you have to do the exact same thing. And in my opinion, if you do it in the kingdom, it's going to be made manifest in the natural and the secular world. So we're so grateful to have these great men on here. Thankful for each one of you that tuned in, that liked, that shared this. We greatly appreciate you. And Miss Sherry Taylor, next time we will find some women, I promise you. And we're going to actually do something with you, because she's out there trying to help people get started becoming entrepreneurs in the home healthcare industry, right? And we know that's a big industry. So definitely a shout out to you as well. But thank you all so much for listening. And until next time, remember, the Lord is our keeper, and you continue to grow in grace and in the knowledge of our Lord and Savior. God bless you. Good night.